Welcome, everyone. This is Glenda Dawson. You're watching Glenda's Dragons Den. Uh, Welcome. Every week we have this on Wednesdays, 9 p.m. Eastern. Join the chat. Please say hello. If you have any questions during the show, they're more than welcome. And tonight we have a phenomenal guest, Ken Lloyd. He is a very good friend. He is a phenomenal person who has quite a team behind him and with him, I should say. So, welcome, Ken. How are you? And
I'm excited. And first of all, I love your intro.
I, I love it. It gives me
Love it.
such a good. Just
So, yeah. so thanks
thank
for
you.
having me on the show. Much appreciated.
Thank
Absolutely.
you for coming on. You're of course always welcome. So, tell the audience about you.
All right. So my team calls me an enigma. We'll start with that. I mean, I had to Google that myself, right? So I'm a little different. So let me kind of start off, and I am a little bit funny too. Let me start off with the history of how I got to where I'm at, and then I'll make that short. So my previous occupation before all this beauty happened to me, it was cybersecurity. So self-taught cybersecurity entrepreneur. Didn't go to college, right? Graduated, but that was it. And I taught myself how to write code, and I've created 3 cybersecurity companies, and all 3 of them have been acquired. All right.
Mhm.
So it's interesting. As a programmer back then, I was reaching millions and millions of people with the software I was doing. And I'll get into it in a minute, but as a programmer in this realm, I'm also reaching millions and millions of people through what they call the ripple effect. So 2018, in 2018, I was diagnosed just before 2018, diagnosed with a pituitary tumor. And this tumor was the result of stress in my life, as well as high dosages of energy drinks and prescribed ADHD medicine and not a lot of sleep. It was a very angry time in my life as I was selling my company. And I found myself triggered one day. And I say triggered now because now I know what that word means.
Mhm.
Before all of this, there was no spirituality ever, no religion. I had no idea what any of this was.
Mhm.
So I'm angry. I lay down in bed and my stomach arches up in the air. So like an upside down letter U. And that went on, like my body was electrified. And for a good 2 minutes, I couldn't move. But what happened is I felt something being pulled out of my abdomen
Mhm.
energetically, right? And I passed out. Woke up the next day, and that's my near death. Let me explain a little bit more. It's so much more complicated than that. So when we have people who talk about their near-death experiences, they usually have a pretty common, we'll call it a pattern. They'll see themselves, they'll have an epiphany, they'll have a conversation, they'll have a memory, right? These
Mhm.
amazing things happen and they come back and then their lives are changed.
Right.
Okay. For the better, whatever, but changed. And for me, if you can think of the idea of that tunnel opening, to go to the other side, to have those experiences, but I actually didn't go into the tunnel. One soul, a future version of me, walked in to me. All right. And this future version of me was in my field, not in the physical body.
Right.
And the next day I woke up just a little bit more peaceful. And I'm like, what is going on here? There was just enough something, if you will, that day that put me onto Google like you wouldn't believe. Like every moment of every day, I was Googling what is spirituality, what is an aura, what is remote viewing, right? What is telekinesis? What is this? What is that? What is this, right?
Mhm.
And I literally couldn't stop trying to understand what had taken place. So I went to see psychics, right? And I went to, and they really couldn't tell me much. It is interesting. Back at the time, time I went to a psychic or had a regression therapy done for QHH,
Mhm.
it was a little breadcrumb, a little breadcrumb, a little breadcrumb that just kept me going down this path, and I had no understanding why.
Mhm.
Started reading books, right, such as healing books, and I'm messing around with friends and family, and they're getting results. And I can tell you this, for me, it was like, stop, tell me you're getting results and you're not. Friends and family will build you up,
Right, right. Yes.
and then I took a course. I read the book, I took the course,
Mhm.
and I was doing all of the work. And I went ahead and I did the 25 clients, right? And
Mhm.
every one of them had results. Now, I will tell you, I don't have a modality. Nothing I do is a modality.
Right.
However, at this point in my life, it was about, can I do these things? Right. So by then, I was able to see inside the body differently, not like a doctor. Right. But
Mhm.
I could see the things that were creating the problems. I could see the ancestors that were attached, and I could talk to them. The past lives, same thing. Right. I could see the childhood trauma, and I shut that down. I don't want to see childhood trauma. I want to remove it, but I don't necessarily
Right,
relive it. But at that
right.
point in my life, every encounter was me having these conversations and understanding what is taking place. And I was able to tap into the emotions in the body, the emotions trapped in the heart. I could modify the DNA. I mean, the list goes on and on and on of all these things that were taking place for me. And you know, it's been an incredible journey in the idea that when I talk about one future version of me coming into my field as a guide, right?
Mhm.
And then April 1st, almost 2 years ago, I lose countdown, right? But I believe 12 more came in that day, right? And then in December, a
April
year
Fool.
ago, I'm sorry, go ahead.
April Fool you.
It was, and that was an interesting time. Definitely an interesting time. But later that year, in
Mhm.
December 12th, 12/12, 8 o'clock at night, I get
Mhm.
this little ping, go meditate. Very unusual because one, I didn't have a connection to my team. Like I got to tell you, man, I struggled. I'm like, what's going on? Somebody talk to me. Like nothing, 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 nothing. And so when I have clients come to me, I'm like, hey, I really understand the frustration of not having that connection. But
Right.
I didn't meditate, didn't do any of those things.
Mhm.
And I get the message, go meditate. So I go into my closet because that was the quietest place in the house. And I sit down in my chair and I'm frozen in position. I can't move my body. I
Oh.
can't itch. I can't twitch, nothing. And then I feel this incredible intense energy coming down through the crown into the body. And now I'm asking questions. Who are you? What is going on? And then I get this voice. We're a little busy right now. Give us a few and we'll come back and talk to you. I'm like, oh. And then
Mhm.
they turned off my ability to ask questions. So
Oh,
15 minutes, whole
sneaky.
thing. 13 of those 15 minutes, I had pure bliss. Like I didn't have a single thought in my head. And I'm like, how do I do that again? That day,
Mhm.
my higher self stepped into my physical body and I could feel it, right? So much more has happened since then. When the higher self stepped into my body, 3 weeks later, I was asking for a divorce. Now, 17 years, beautiful marriage, didn't have any problems. It seemed really odd for this to need to take place.
Mhm.
But I knew it was coming. Somewhere deep inside of me, I knew it was coming. So by March, so 3 months after this happened, I was in Mexico already. I had sold, remember, cybersecurity. I had sold
Mhm.
my race cars, my classic vehicles, I sold everything that I could because I no longer needed those things. And I found myself in Mexico for 6 months
Mhm.
to integrate what had taken place, or so I thought. I went to Yalapa, Mexico for 30 days. 9 more came in, I believe,
Oof.
right? And into my field around me, right? Future versions of me, past versions of me, angelic beings, ascended
Right.
masters, divinity, all of these things, right? And in July, I'm in Tulum, Mexico, and I'm in Tulum for 10 days, and I get the message from my team, you're going to go do Cambo, you're going to go do Bufo. I'm going to tell you right now, no, I'm not that guy. But I went into this with absolutely no fear. And here's what happened. when I did the Cambo, which for those of you who don't know, it's frog poison. They burn these little holes in your arm. And what that does is when that poison hits your body, it opens up the cellular structure,
Right.
removes those toxins.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they had me do the Bufo 2 hours later, which I guess is not
Oh.
recommended, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did the Bufo, which is toad poison. It's DMT, the God molecule, whatever they want to call these things. All
Right.
right. That was the most intense thing I've ever experienced. It was a total about 25 minutes, and it was peaceful for me. No twitching, no nothing. Just laid there with my arms crossed and allowed everything to take place. And so what had happened that day? They opened up the cellular structure of my body, and the 22 that were in my field merged into the physical body.
Mm.
And at that point, I became what you would call a collective,
Right.
right? So as we reach up and we talk to our teams, our collectives, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to do that. They're in the physical body, and they're always off to my right, and it's one voice. Thank God it's one voice, and one face, if you will, that helps me guide me as I move through. And they are now continuing to shift what I do. So this allows me the ability to heal in very impactful, rapid ways. Again, I'm talking a lot, but I want to back up a second here to the idea
Right.
of being a programmer.
Right.
So what I had found out is over the past, we're going on 7 years now, every time I had healed someone, the team, created the healing codes for this. And they placed them in the physical body. And I have an energy field 580 feet around me that your audience is in right now,
Mm-hmm.
virtually or locally. But in this field are also those healing codes. So as people move into my field, if they're ready and their team agrees, they are receiving the healing even without interacting with me. So I'm a programmer. Now I'm a programmer of these healing codes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they continue to evolve. Um, and I got to tell you, it's incredible. I just can't explain how amazing it is to be able to sit here in front of you and talk
Right.
about all these experiences, right? And there'll be a little gift here later on if everyone stays tuned.
Yes. Yes.
So go ahead. Go ahead. Let me toss back over to you, Glenda.
So, you know, I see Ashley asked, what made you choose Mexico? Did they
They
direct you
did
to
it.
Mexico? Yeah.
Yeah, they directed me. And Yalapa is a place where there are no cars, right? Horses, buggies, so horses, donkeys, and four wheelers. Right? And I was there for 30 days. They had internet, but I wouldn't take, they shut down all my appointments and everything while I went through this phase of this transition, right? So it was really isolation, why they integrated the physical body.
Right. They wanted you to be completely present while they did that.
Yep,
So,
yep. And I had, whatever I had found out later that energy I felt coming out of the abdomen
mhm.
was a cheat code. It was all of my trauma up into that point in my life.
Ah,
All of it
very
was removed. I still had trauma I needed to deal with,
right.
current trauma,
Hmm.
right? But they removed it all so that they can come into the body. And so for the past 7 years or 6 years, they've been modifying the
Hmm.
body. Yeah.
Okay.
So imagine always feeling those tingles,
Yeah.
and then they stabilize you for a week or two, and then they do it again, and they do it
Hmm.
again. And so this has been my life for quite a while.
Well, with your near-death experience, they call it, I've had a few, so I understand the norm. You see your body, you're in this peaceful place, yada yada, and they come and talk to you. The last one though, they came to me.
Did they?
Yeah. So just like with you, I don't think I have a collective here,
Yeah.
but I don't know anymore. I just called in my team, and it's like, okay,
Yeah. Right. It's
there,
just it's just can't keep
it's just
track.
right, right, and basically, who really wants to,
Yeah. I don't.
right?
And
So,
I recognize now
mhm.
why I didn't have this epiphany, why we didn't have this we. So you'll hear me say we all the
Yeah,
time.
right,
Because had I had that story, I wouldn't evolved into what I am now. I would have been stuck on the
correct.
story. I would have been stuck on the message, stuck on the moment, the visual that would never have left me, right? So they didn't
Hmm.
give me that. Instead, they moved me this way. So I don't have those stories,
Right,
right?
right,
Hmm.
right. which is it's very different because you have to do it. You're on a different path.
Yeah.
So, um, so you say that you didn't have anything spiritual, no spiritual
Nope.
background at all,
None. I might have
and
went to a psychic once at a fair. Like seriously, shelter
well,
child.
yeah, well, we all come from very strict backgrounds, most of us anyway.
Mm.
Um, and then all of a sudden, like, now, what did your family, your friends?
Well, I think they thought I might have been borderline nuts,
Okay.
but then the receiving too.
Mm-hmm.
So they really did have an issue with is a guy going off the rocker, right?
Mm-hmm.
But why am I healed now? Why do I don't have that problem anymore? Why is life shifting and changing every time the guy comes into the presence to do his work?
Right.
So they did struggle, right?
Mm-hmm.
And eventually, the family recognized there's something happening here. And
Mm-hmm.
beyond me just doing this because every client had results. It wasn't
Right.
just this their missed thing. And eventually they just kind of got tired of they'd mute the TV to listen to me and then to go back to the TV. They're not spiritual either, right? So
Right.
what happened here is there was a segregation, right?
Mm-hmm.
The divorce thing had to happen because I was moving up in frequency, but
Right.
the partner was staying where they're at, which was fine. But
Mm-hmm.
this is what took place. At this point, my family is in love with what I do,
Mm-hmm.
completely supportive, right?
Right. Right.
But yeah, but it's funny, I'll have somebody ask me to heal their body, fix their bones, the tumors, cancer, whatever. And then I've
Right.
got my daughter who says, "Listen, the power went out. When's it coming back on, Dad?" So different audience, right? I'm like, really? All this stuff I'm doing, wondering the power's coming back on. I mean, 6 hours, and yeah, it was 6 hours. So, anyways,
Right.
it's just funny how
It,
family reacts differently.
right. And especially your daughter. Your daughter is down to like, look, I need to get back on the internet. So when
My phone's gonna run out of juice.
right, right. So, so is there any part of the healing that you do that you feel more connected to, or you just basically they use you as the conduit to bring the opportunity of healing?
So the way this works,
Hmm.
and they've been able to explain it here a lot lately, is when someone shows up to me, whether it be in person or a group or on a replay, even today, right?
Right,
Their team is already working with my team.
right.
All right, they've already made the arrangements, and your team, their team, that says, "Listen, we need to have A, B, and C,"
Hmm.
and they work with my team, and my team will go out to wherever A, B, and C is at.
Right.
Now, I'm what's called a hollow bone. All
Hmm.
right, so just because I've got all these beautiful energies in me and around me, you're going to get exactly what you need, because what'll happen is your team will find out what's going on out there, and they'll work with my team to ensure it's sanitized, and they use the word sanitized, right? So what's coming down and moving out through me is
Hmm.
exactly what you need. And I found it interesting that when I listen to other practitioners using light language, it's a relatively short burst of light language, a few seconds,
Hmm.
a few moments, right? And the message is
Hmm.
delivered. But for me, it goes and it goes and it goes, right? Whether it
Hmm.
be for a minute or whether it be for 2 hours, whatever these
Right.
things are. And what's happening here is you're getting a lot more than what you showed up for.
Hmm.
All right. Because your team's like, listen, the opportunities here, you're going to get your activations, you're going to get your clearing, you're going to get
Right.
whatever these things are. And this is why the light language is so important to me. And not only that, but I don't need to know what it's doing.
Right.
So for me, I simply set the intent.
Hmm.
Someone says, "Listen, I had a friend today, right, whose daughter, they just got back from meeting, the daughter couldn't talk, right?
Hmm.
She's 15, 16. She literally couldn't talk, virus or whatever. And I'm like, listen, do you want me to work on you? She says, yeah. So I set the intent, healed
Hmm.
the flow. Light language came through. It was probably only 60 seconds worth. And I went back to talk to the mom for other stuff. And before I got off the call, I'm like, listen, how's she doing? And she's fully back to herself, right? So I don't need to know the
Right.
mechanics of how it works. I just need to show up without judgment, without, a perception of how it has to happen,
Hmm.
period. And just trust in everything that's going on. And I got to tell you, the formula works over and over and over. So
Yeah.
yes, basically I'm lazy and I just let them do all the work. So and it's true though, right?
Right. I mean, and that's the beauty of what you do is you don't use your ego, because I've seen that happen a lot where they put themselves first, and it's like,
Yeah.
no, you're just here as a conduit, what I call a conduit, a hollow bone,
Yep.
a conduit. But they like to say, "Oh, I'm the healer." I'm like,
No, I don't heal anybody.
no,
But,
I'm
yeah,
the
I'll tell you
conduit for
what.
opportunity.
Yeah, yeah. I'm just here, and it's interesting when we talk about the ego and we talk about the service to self first, right?
Right.
When I'm in these sessions, I will see what I call the yucky, right? So it's an unlabeled term, just the yucky, right? The things that
Right.
aren't so happy.
Right.
And even when I'm removing these things from people,
Hmm.
there's no judgment up there. Like I don't have this thing inside of me that says, you're a bad guy. I gotta send you someplace bad." Like none of
Right.
that happens.
Correct.
None of it. The light language talks to them, they talk to me, doesn't matter how yucky they are,
Hmm.
and they leave.
Hmm.
One of the things that happened through this process is they removed fear from me.
Hmm.
Not the fear of somebody in an alley,
Right.
right,
Yeah.
at 2 a.m., but the fear of what I'm doing in any capacity. And I remember the first time I got in front of an audience of 120 people in Sarasota in person, right? The
Right.
very first time I was in front of anybody was 120 people. Zero anxiety, zero stage fright, nothing. And I'm like, whoa, what was that all about? And what's happening here is think of a bus.
Hmm.
Ken the human is driving the bus all the time, right?
Hmm.
But when the work has to be done, whoever is doing the work will move into the driver's seat.
Right.
And this is what happened at that event. And every event and everything I do is they just simply shift and they're in front. And because they're in front, there's no anxiety, there's no worry, right? None.
Hmm.
I used to be concerned, what are they going to say? Right? Not anymore. Not anymore at all. Like they've never said something that was inappropriate or, well, wrong to my knowledge, at least with
Right.
the client. So, there's a lot of trust. There's no
Hmm.
fear, and it allows me to show up, to, my mission are millions and millions of people, to
Hmm.
show up in front of crowds of 10,000 or more. This is where I'm going. And to do that, you have to be able to, one, handle all the energy out there, right?
Hmm.
Because that amount of energy, not everyone in the audience is there for your best interest or for their best interest, right?
Hmm.
You have to be able to handle that. So they've modified the energy bodies in me and around me to help me with that protection, right? But you need to show up and you need to be able to deliver too. Your heart has to be opened, right? And your
Hmm.
heart's not going to be opened if you're sitting there paralyzed in fear.
Right.
So yeah, I don't know. It's a strange life I lead.
So now you travel from Mexico.
Yep. Traveled to
Okay.
Mexico. I spent 6 more months, roughly 6 more months in Florida. So I'm from Naples,
Okay.
Florida, right? It's
Okay.
been 25 years off and on. Spent 6 more months in Florida, just kind of integrating and kind of waiting until that next phase. And
Hmm.
so this next phase is here. And so ironically, we have contracts up there, we have contracts down here. So when the
Right.
contract with the marriage was signed off, completed, my team comes in and says 3 weeks. I'm like, what do you mean? They said 3 more weeks and you're going to have this next integration. I'm like, oh, okay, well, what's that? And this
Hmm.
is where I'm at right now. And I had always struggled with channeling. I'm like, well, how come I can't channel?
Right.
I can do light language channeling, and I can channel to a client, but I'm like, I struggled with that. And I'm like, why don't you guys talk to me? Right? Well, all of that has changed. And this is the next piece of me. So they do channel all the time now, right?
Hmm.
And they talk to me all the time. In fact, I now know how I actually mechanically operate. I call it the configuration, right? They showed me how this works and how those codes that are being delivered to you are up leveled and sanitized and also obey the laws of the universe, so that something out there isn't trying to do a little backdoor thing, right? So they showed me
Mm-hmm.
how all this works. They showed me, how the energy fields are set up. And one of the most beautiful things that they told me, I'm like, listen, I said, I don't know what I'm actually doing.
Right.
And what they explained to me is I'm like a little bit of like a radar. All right. I'm able
Mm-hmm.
to sense the energetic fingerprint of the thing that you're trying to get rid of. I call it energy interference. So every disease, right? Every condition, every heart thing, every childhood trauma, all of these things have a energetic fingerprint. I'm able to sense and pick that up. And they said, listen, Ken, when you're in a session and you call out the number 2, because there's 2 ancestors that are attached to the thing I'm working on, they
Mm-hmm.
said, it's not us. I'm like, what? They said, no, that's you. They said, that is the way you're built. You're able to determine and sense the very things that are affecting them. So what's interesting is, so over the past 7 years, they've been creating a catalog of all of this energy interference. And that catalog is in that field.
Right.
There's an opposite piece, and that's the healing. And they said it's like 2 ripples coming together in a pond, and they cancel each other out.
Mm-hmm.
This is the healing. So as somebody comes into the field and they're ready, and their team said
Right.
it's okay, they're receiving that without even talking to me. And now it makes sense. Now I realize the type of programmer I am with these healing codes. So yeah, new phase. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
chatty, and now I get to know what's going on with me. So yeah.
Very good. Very good. Well, I could tell you they're doing something because the back of my neck is
Yeah.
feeling heat, feeling heat right now. So it's
Yeah,
very.
yeah. People get the heat thing, right? And then they'll get the energy moving from one place of the body to the other. As it's trying to leave, it'll shift to move around, right? But
Right.
I'm not consciously or intentionally
No,
working on you.
no.
So this
But
happens.
I
I know it's
guess this
happening.
happened. We knew it was going to happen.
Yeah.
But I think before we set this up today, we started. My team talked to your team and said, "Oh well, since you're going to be there anyway."
Yep. Yeah. But I mean, they're telling me it happens in the grocery store as well, like
Hmm.
everywhere. And I don't see that. Right.
Right.
And I don't want to see it. And, I got to tell you, with everything going on with me, what is beautiful is I don't feel everyone's energy. When I
Oh,
walk into a room, I'm not reading anybody.
which
Right.
is
And I'm not
very
picking up on whatever stuff they've got going on. They've got me shielded. They're like, listen, if you could feel everything happening, you actually wouldn't be able to get out of bed.
no, no,
I'm like,
no.
okay, great. And it's nice to be able to walk into some place and not be picking up on all their thoughts and
Hmm.
all the things. Now, when we agree to engage, it's another story.
Right,
Then it's game on.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yes, because then that's the what I call like a USB connection, right? Then you
Hmm.
connect, and there's all the information traveling back and forth. Um, so that's very
Yeah.
interesting.
And, and
Yes.
and I love talking to your team. So I'm going to give you an example. I had a client the other day, really, really good
Hmm.
client. And, she's very spiritual, does a lot of work and all of these things, right?
Right.
She's a very first person ever say, I want to learn what you're doing. I'm like, I don't think I can do that, but I can. I'm going to talk about the library creation in just a moment. So
Hmm.
this client was in a 10-day spiritual retreat, fasting, whatever this is. And by day number 9, she ended up going to AFib with her heart.
Oh, okay.
And she ended up having a near death. And
Hmm.
she can remember those scenes. So since then, she's had so much fear in her. And every time she turns around with anxiety, the heart starts doing its thing. And she's doing the
Mm.
work. She's doing the work. And she says, Ken, I just can't understand why this is happening. I'm doing the work. I'm like, okay.
Right.
So immediately I go talk to her team. And I kind of, it's funny. They don't actually use full sentences. They just kind of
Yeah.
give you what you need. And I'm like, listen, client, you're trying to have another near death. You're intentionally creating this fear and this condition so you can relive the experience you had. She says, oh my God. Sometimes just the awareness of what you're doing on
Right.
the unconscious level resolves it. Right. So,
Hmm. Hmm.
it wasn't something I need to do. I'm like, every time I look, I'm like, your heart's fine. It's fine. But this is what was happening.
Mm.
So I briefly mentioned the Library of Creation.
Right.
So this field around me,
Mm-hmm.
right? My mission is millions and millions of people. And, the idea of one person literally being in front of millions and millions of people is a little far-fetched, unless some craziness happens. But they have given me, and they tell me I've actually created, so I am a creator. We're all creators, but I've created this library of creation. And this is a place where you go. Anybody can go. You just drop into your visualization. There's no psychic stuff going on here necessarily,
Right.
other than setting your intention. And when you go
Mm-hmm.
in there, you can see the childhood trauma that's impacting you, but you see it in a way you don't remember it.
Mm-hmm.
As an example, in the room of your childhood memories, you'll ask to see the childhood trauma that is preventing me from falling in love. I'm making this up, right?
Right.
And they'll show you an object in the room. They don't show you the memory. They don't show you the scene. And the object has nothing to do with whatever took place. It's a
Right.
random object.
Mm-hmm.
And what you'll end up doing is you'll end up giving that object love, appreciation, gratitude, forgiveness.
Mm-hmm.
You're not forgiving what happened. You're forgiving yourself for responding the way you did and
Mm-hmm.
continue to respond.
Mm-hmm.
And the object will shift and change, drops it into a box, and it floats away. I can show you how to see all the ancestors that are connected to your shoulder that's preventing the healing. So in this
Mm-hmm.
library, you get to do the work
Right.
using my codes.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to the library, say, library, show me. And they're going into my field and they're looking for the energetic fingerprint of, say, the ancestors.
Right.
Then you tell the library, heal and release the ancestors. And that's exactly what happens. The cords will dissolve.
Mm-hmm.
In the room of your past, there's a room I love. It's called the viewing room of your past lives. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like a movie theater. And you go and sit down, and up there are all these TV screens that are off. And you'll simply say, show me the past lives that are attached to my shoulder. I'm, again, just parent living.
Right.
Show them to me, blurred and out of focus. The TV screens will come on with your past lives, blurred and out of focus, and then you'll tell the room to heal and release, and that's exactly what they do. One of the things that the team is adamant about is no more stories.
Right.
None. Because if you were to go into that room and you were to see the past life and what had happened, it brings it back in even further into you, because now you're like, well,
Mm-hmm.
why did I do that? And how did I end up there? And why do I dress like that? My God, where'd my teeth go? Whatever these things are, you're reliving and you're pulling it in further. My team's like, no.
Right.
No. So there's no more stories. When I go and do the healing, it's funny. When I would learn how to heal the neck or whatever,
Right.
it would take me an hour. Now it takes me seconds.
Right.
Literally, to remove ancestors, past life, and childhood trauma takes me 15 seconds for all of them,
Mm-hmm.
because I can pull that energy interference just right out. So, no stories, everyone. You're not going to get them from me. No, don't ask me to do a past life regression for you.
Well,
I just
there's
choose.
no need for what the intention is. There's no need to know all the details.
No, there's not. Everything is shifting and changing. So,
Right.
people have asked me, well, why were you chosen? And I'm going to tell you now, I wasn't chosen at all. This is my job.
Right.
No different than somebody else's 9 to 5. Different,
Mm-hmm.
no different, right?
Right.
And I have done this billions of times. I always show up at times where the race is ascending, but not just the beginning of the ascension process. I'm here to rapidly evolve that entire process and to bring it in. And I'm not the only one. There's 10 others like me, configured differently, they say.
Right.
But we're here to do that big lifting to move everyone into their own ascension faster. So
Mm-hmm.
rapid ascension. So that's my job. And to do that, we got to start with the healing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Yeah, and for that, there's no need to know all the details. You could remember things if you really want to. You could go and get one of the past life regressions and go through the whole thing if you're really looking for but if you're just looking to get healed, that's no details
I don't know
needed.
my past lives. I don't astral travel, people. Like I'm not busy at night. Like if I see a dog before I go to bed, well, guess what I'm dreaming about?
I see. I'm busy at night.
The dog.
So.
Oh yeah, no. And they're like, you're not going to get it.
Right.
because you get so much going on now that the moment we open that up, your conversations will now be about your astral travel and the things you're doing out there.
Right.
And they're like,
Right.
that's not part of the mission.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I want to say this to a lot of these folks out there. When people begin their spiritual journey, they expect it to show up a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
They expect gift A, B, or C, whatever these things are. And they want it now, damn it. They really, really do. And I'm going to tell you right now, folks, it never, ever, ever works that way for anybody. When you
Nope.
release those expectations and you just stay in the flow, it will arrive. It will absolutely arrive. And it'll arrive in a way that you would have never, ever thought about. Right? These
Mm-hmm.
gifts that I had, I couldn't dream them up if I read them in a book.
Mm-hmm.
So even me, I did that. I set expectations. I had a list of 30 things I wanted them to do.
Only 30.
33, that's all I could find in the book. Yeah.
But no, it's true. Once you just don't expect the outcome, just let it happen. And it does happen in a very special way and when you least expect it, truthfully.
Right. Yeah. It's like when
Yeah.
you let your guard down,
Yeah.
which you're supposed to, then they're
Mm-hmm.
able to come in.
Right.
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 And they're laughing at me. We go and work the scene
Right.
because you begin shifting and changing you and into the beauty that you are.
Right. That's exactly what they do. And they know we have our human side, so they kind of laugh because I'm a Gemini. I argue with my team all the time.
Do
And
you
I'm
really?
like,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's well now they kind of expect it. I think if I don't argue, they're actually like, okay, what that you said
That's great,
okay?
isn't it? Yeah.
Wait, hold on, what? And I'm like, I you
Sometimes my team will swear, right? Because they think it's cool. They're like, "Oh my god, that was so much fun!" And so they have me doing automatic writing now, and they'll swear, and then they'll make do parentheses. That was exciting. Do it again. So they're in the
yeah,
physical body. They are literally experiencing every second, every moment of my life.
right,
Right?
right,
And this is one of the reasons. I do tell them there are times that they should not pay attention.
yes.
Yes,
I do have my private time, my personal
exactly.
space, whatever you want to call it. Yes.
Yeah. But they it's incredible having these conversations, and they're so loving. And this is how
Hmm.
you know it's the right team,
Yeah.
right? When
Exactly.
you have those teams that are connected to you and they're yucky, right? They're telling you you should have done it this way and you should have done
Hmm.
it better and you need to go do this and so on and so forth. You need to really check
Hmm.
because that's not the way that's supposed to be.
Right.
Period. So I've run across folks like that, right? And I'm like, you
Mm-hmm.
need to clean house.
Hmm. Hmm. Yes. No. You could have, should have, would have. That should not be
No.
here we're doing it. But it is true. That's one of the differences. Like I have dealt with the yucky, as you call it,
Yeah.
but I have done it um, in people, and I have done it in places.
Oh,
So
right.
right,
Hmm.
so I have cleaned house that way, and everybody says to me, "Oh, how can you do it?" I'm like, "There's just a being that's there for a reason."
Yeah. You
And
just
once
connect,
it,
do what you got to do,
yeah,
and you didn't train for this. You just showed up one day, and the entity's there, whatever. They're like, "Oh, hi." You're like, "Oh, hi," and the team just has that magic, and they make it happen.
yeah,
I'm just in awe at the things that I have done in my sessions,
hmm,
knowing I've never done those things ever, at least consciously, right?
right,
I never know what's going to happen, but it never not happens.
right,
It's the most amazing thing, and when you are in that flow,
hmm,
life is so much easier. You just
hmm,
just don't have any more worries. It's
no,
just going to work out, and everything up there that happens, is now happening in my 3D world. Like I don't have struggles.
right,
I don't have problems. I don't have issues. I don't have arguments. I don't have any of these things, right? And I got to tell you, it's kind of hard hanging around some people. I'm like, no, I don't have that. No. I can show
You're
you how to.
biting, you're biting your tongue, going, "Oh Lord."
Yeah. It's time to go yet.
Yeah. I stayed about 20 minutes too long. Okay, gotta go. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
so real quick, what
Mhm.
is now that you're communicating with your team? Okay, when they first started communicating with you directly, like actually talking, were you surprised? Were you like, oh, finally they said something? Or were you like, what? Wait, did I just hear somebody?
I got to tell you, let me explain something. And you were the one who brought it to my attention and helped me just recently. I had always complained, why don't you talk to me? Everyone's telling me you're there and I can feel something. Have these conversations, and your team, or you guys said, listen, they don't talk to
Right.
you because you were afraid.
Right.
Sure as fill in the word. 24 hours later, boom, they're on. I'm
Sorry.
like, where you been? They're like, we've been here the whole time. Where have you been? I'm like, oh, hiding, I guess. It was a
But
relief. And the other thing that you said magically was, you're going to think you're crazy. And I had never thought that before. But 3 or 4 days after that, as I'm talking, as they're channeling verbally, and now it's my
mhm,
voice, right?
right, right.
And then I'm responding. I'm like, oh, this is where the
Hmm.
crazy comes from.
Hmm.
And so it was it, but that piece of awareness was exactly what I needed to realize, okay, it's just a moment.
Right.
And now,
No,
it's just smooth, relatively
right,
smooth.
right.
Yeah. But no,
Right,
I
because
waited.
you had to take care of the human side.
Yeah.
Because you're still
And
human. So
yeah, and the thing is they don't actually have to talk to me.
right.
Remember, they're in the cellular structure of the body.
Mm-hmm.
I just know.
Mm-hmm.
And it's weird to just know something without asking a question.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm also getting used to that. Like it's one thing for a client, I can finish their sentence or whatever the case is, but for me, we are our own toughest client, right?
Right.
Every
Yes.
psychic needs a psychic, every healer needs a healer. But so for
Right.
me, I'm realizing that all of these feelings, these thoughts, these emotions, these ideas of the
Mm-hmm.
3D stuff was also them.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing that I do that they're not a part of, right?
Right.
So when I have the spidey senses and
Mm-hmm.
something's coming up, I should go do something. It is them also moving me along the way. So I've come to, what's that word, symbiotic harmony or whatever I want to put there, right?
Right.
So yeah, I'm learning them, and they're like, listen, they said, we're 90% of you.
Right.
We see everything.
Mm-hmm.
Every thought, every action, every emotion, every timeline, every potential, we see it all. He says, you are 10%. You can't see anything above your 10%. So you don't know what's happening over here.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay. They said, but that's about to change. I'm like, what do you mean? They said, because you're coming online with all of us, you now get access to more of those timelines, more of the awareness, more of what's coming. And I now know things that are going to happen 2 or 3 months in advance. And there's not a question about the
Mm-hmm.
if anymore.
Right.
So yeah, so I'm moving into more of them as now that they apparently own me. I'm just kidding.
I hope they paid you well.
Well, they live rent free.
Oh,
No,
jeez.
no, no.
Do
They,
they
I mean,
even do?
listen.
Do they
Yeah,
even do the windows?
they don't. But they fill my docket up, right? They bring the
Right.
clients to
Right.
me that need the help,
Exactly.
right? And
Exactly.
they're doing it in the masses.
Right.
So they know I teach about the rent free thing, but I mean, they are literally doing all the lifting.
Right.
Period. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's good. So, um, before we do the special
The special.
surprise, the special, um, tell us where people can find you. Well, I see it right in your thing there. So,
Well, I had to do that because we're on a different platform. So kenlloydofficial.com, right?
yeah.
And if
Yeah.
you go there and you
Hmm.
sign up for the newsletter, there's a free gift, right? And that
Right.
will be a 6-minute light language clearing that you can use in the morning, the night. It'll clear your field, to kind of reset your emotions, right? It's pretty awesome. Of course, I did it. But that being said, what is
Right.
really neat is that in there, under the events tab, you'll find the groups that I'm doing. right?
Right.
And the groups that I do are interesting. So they're themed. And every 4 weeks they cycle. Like tonight, I just did DNA, chromosomes, epigenetic, and the sensory systems of the body.
Mm-hmm.
But what's neat is I allow the audience to go into the chat room and type anything they want the team to work on.
Right.
So we do the syllabus,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'll spend another half hour with heavy light language working on everybody that's in the chat window, right? So Facebook, just set my Facebook page up. I've had Facebook for a long time, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a social guy. Like I don't know any of that stuff, right? But we just created a Facebook page, and you can go to I think it's at Ken Lloyd Official in Facebook as well,
Right.
and you'll find the page. And in there, I'll be doing these short little 3, 4, 5 minute light language clearings and healings. And I'm just telling people, hey, if you need something done, just pop it in there, right?
Right.
But this is also where I'll put in the channeling as that starts flowing through as well. So yeah, I'm a little bit of everywhere, the YouTube channel, the Instagram, all of that. But respectfully, I have a business team because I don't know what I'm doing, right? So I've hired the people to do the things that I don't know what I'm doing.
And that's the good part. That's the good part.
Yeah.
Now, right before we went on, you said for me to set an intention.
Yeah.
So I have set that intention. So,
Okay. So
and
what are
your
we working
team,
on?
and we are working on the fears are right now.
I'm sorry, repeat
Not
the fear.
fear that appears to be running high right now.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. So,
All right.
but not, I don't know why that came in my team, talk to
No,
your
I
team.
literally just worked on the an hour ago, the genetic imprinting of fear.
There you go. So,
So yeah. All right.
yes.
Give me one. Everyone just kind of
Yeah.
relax and close your eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And just allow whatever to happen to happen. There's literally nothing you need to do. Shirikadia Nataria Note Mokoya Kaya Jishaka Lalia Lady Shadorigo Dotorigo Doria Babio Korea Shikadaria Notaria Notorio Notichikuria Brigoda Marati Shikadario Poria Naki and Natarianari Shikutoria do. Shikadiriga Notaria Notapa get the Kaukayaskoria by Alokoria Notaria Nochikoria Notoria Notaria Notachikorio the Namama and Nodialico Dalia Mapio Shikotoria Dentishkadira Notoria Papa Hiki Shikoto Kriotogani Nishkadini Nati and Natini to go to the Hermano the Nishkadiri Nataria Nataria Shikadaria Mapa Papio could do the singer at the Colombo Notiata. Shalia Koyana Ama Yani Nunia Korea Laria now Comopaliaka. Kalealia Lania Kayo no nia Kushu no nia Bomia Nini no Nalanic no nia Paolia Korea na Kaya Nata Shiato. Musho Toria no Dialia Kaya Nia Kaya Nia Nindio Tori Kotora Rataria Takaria Maparatia Tarati Chikiniko Mapia Karia Kunetarati di Sieta Kumabi Rotaria Caputia Chichia. Kaya Nekane Kaneta Kolokmako and the Tadina Tadi di Chikadaria Tadini Tichuko the Maroti Kamapia the Chicadan Mama and Nariosia. Connected to the Tadabarato di Chicadan, the Tatico to the Paola Rataria Tietalia no to your Mapakia. Maya niya mamo yung no mama yan na nali yan lang ko no to show kapaya kaya ko dek horotoria ni tari di tari otoria mapayo no di diskutoria na tari diskutoria tari mapayo ko pio tari ko tara shrotaria na tari ni ti eno shura payo ko. Ayan niya no aya kala kanya ti akashi ko koloreto na tayo na si ni kita ko to tari pa ko to ti proto siano to na ta ti di ko to tari rotoria no ti shakapio to. You guys can come out of that when you're ready. It's funny. Like there's a bunch of them that wanted to step forward. They're like, me next, me next, me next.
Yes, I saw when there was the change.
Yeah,
And,
yeah. And
and
go ahead.
the funny part is they were showing me the you're next, you're next, you're next.
Were they really?
So I knew how to give the proper thank you to
Well,
each.
that's so awesome because I'm having conversations with them about dumb stuff,
It's
right?
great.
I
It's
got my
great.
laundry in the next room. I'm asking about that. Like, why all that's happening. And I do. There's one thing we did miss, by the way.
Yes.
There's a coupon code for your audience.
Yes. Yes. That's.
So it's 25% off
Mm-hmm.
for any private session or any group I do, right? And the code is
Mm-hmm.
easy. It's all capitals. It's one word, healing. You've got it down
Mm-hmm.
in there, right?
Right.
And if you guys want to have those private sessions, do not book me for an hour. We'll be playing cards. We'll be talking about the weather because everything happens so fast. 30 minutes and we're still talking in the end about anything. Like
Right.
it's just so rapid.
Right. Right. Yeah. I want to clarify. I'm not the one who needed the healing, by the way.
Oh, what do you mean?
They wanted me to tell you that. I don't
Oh,
know
it
why.
wasn't for you, huh?
No.
Kuno
No.
siya kaya nakapo so yeah,
Mm-mm.
that's funny. That's so awesome that you're able to have that connection, right? Because it really is a sacred container. They don't
Right.
allow just anybody to come in
Yeah.
and connect with them.
Well, you did give me permission before, and they feel that I'm still safe.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Lucky them that they
Because I
could
lock
with
it
it.
down pretty good, right?
Right. Right.
As I had a friend of mine tell me this once, and they say bigger levels, bigger devils. He's
Mm-hmm.
also spiritual, right? I'm like, okay, well, do we have to use the word devil? And he's like, but listen, it's true. He says, when you raise your frequency up so high,
Mm-hmm.
you get the equal and opposite reaction from the yuckies,
Right.
right?
Right.
So my team does a lot of effort in shielding me from
Mm-hmm.
all of those yuckies out there, right? And
Right.
this is why I don't let people read me
Right.
because all that shielding in the world, all the work they're doing, it's all thrown out the window the moment I say, come on in, because
Mm-hmm.
it's free will.
Mm-hmm.
And they can't do anything. And because it's free will, they literally have to stand aside. Now, my team is interesting, and they said, listen, they said, if you mess up, we'll shut you down. I'm like, what do you mean? They said, we'll turn your gifts off until you're cleared.
Mm.
Anybody who's tainted, that has those attachments shouldn't be doing healing until they've done their own healing on the inside. And
Very true.
that's I don't think that awareness is out there, even from just practitioners, right? Or even
Mm-hmm.
them being aware of something that needs to be addressed. So my team's like, listen, we shut it down. And they did that, by the way. On April 1st, 2 years ago, when those 9 came in, the person who was facilitating that could have been anybody,
Mm-hmm.
but I connected to her 3 hours beforehand, and I saw the red ET inside of her, and I had a conversation with him. It says, "You're not allowed.
Mm-hmm.
Stay out of me." Well, he didn't, and
Mm.
my team shut it down for 10 days, and it took 5 weeks to extract that thing out of the body. And I had
Mm.
other people working on me because, listen, it's hard to work on
Yeah,
ourselves.
yeah, it's extremely hard.
Yeah.
You
So
know,
so I mean, this was awareness for me. Like, listen,
right.
don't open up that door.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have to be not just be aware and be careful. Make sure that you don't open the door that's too wide too.
Yeah.
Because that could easily happen also. So,
Oh yeah.
yeah, no, true. It's like you were saying, it's very hard to heal ourselves, and we wish we could
Yeah.
make it easy, like as
You
we
see
do it.
these? I would take care of these in a heartbeat if I could.
If
I can
they
heal someone's eyes. I can't heal mine.
maybe they want you to know how it feels. I don't know. I don't know.
They're going to put someone in my path to
Right,
handle that for me,
right.
right? And it really isn't their job to take away from the human experience. We really want him to enjoy the things that are happening to his body as he ages. And yes, his gray hair is a pain in the ass for him. But that being said, we're not going to come in and we're not going to instantly heal him. The reasoning is again back to the story of the beginning. This would be the story he would share with everyone. I can heal
Right.
myself. I can heal myself. And that is not part of the mission at all. He will go through the normal healing cycles others go through, and he will do the work that needs to be done for those particular things as it approaches. This is his own lesson that he needs to learn. Okay, so that
Yes.
was them, right? It's the same voice.
Yeah.
It's just,
Yeah.
I think my eyes shift or there's something that happens. I don't know what it looks like from the outside yet.
Well, what I got that was Shakta. S
Shakta,
H A
Shakti and
K
Shiva.
T. Yeah. So
Yeah, okay, so that's another one. That's
there
new.
you go. There you go.
I mean, literally between now and the end of February, they're piling in. They're like, "Hey, we're showing up because there's a show that's going on, right?
There you go.
Whatever's
There you
going to
go.
happen is kind of a big thing for me. I mean, I actually know, but I don't
Mm-hmm.
know.
Right.
And they're all showing up. It's like it's game time, and they're like it's game time now. So yeah,
Well, you're ready. You got rid of everything you needed to get rid of, and
yeah,
to feel lighter and be
yeah.
lighter and be able to go wherever you need to go when you need to go.
Right, right. I'm about as
Yeah.
flexible as a gymnast I was when I was 18. So yeah, I can go anywhere and do anything I want in the moment's notice.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I tell people. I'm flexible like that gymnast I used to be. Just let's go.
Yeah, exactly. Now, is there we have about 4 minutes to go. Is there anything you want to leave our audience with?
I'll give you the message that they give everyone. And stop looking for a savior outside. And we're going to say the word savior in terms of all of the UFO, the galacticness that's happening around the world. Just allow that to be. You're not going to get the answers from them that you're searching for. What you will get is information you may not necessarily need at all, that'll kind of lure you in, like the idea of a fish at a fish lure. We want you to go back to yourselves. Go back inside of yourselves. Go into your own heart to get all the answers you need, because every single thing you need for this existence of the time is already inside of the body. It is not out there with all the, we're going to use the word noise pollution that's happening. Shut it down. Go inside and get the answers you need. Work with the others that can help you open and unlock that channel of communication and information. But everything you need is inside you. Shift your perspective, please. Look inside. That was
Beautiful.
yeah.
That's
Yeah, there's
beautiful.
there's a lot of stuff happening out there. All the you name it. Look, I call it
Mm-hmm.
the chaos out there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
and there's no answers there. There's no savior. And respectfully, when they said savior, they're actually referring to a lot of the galactic stuff that's happening out there. Like no one's going to land in your front lawn and save you from whatever you are. You are what you are, and you want to save yourself. You have to go in to do the work.
Right.
So this is the awareness, and I suspect there is a lot of what we call that FUD in the business term: fear, uncertainty, and doubt.
Right.
So where you go.
Right.
So
Exactly.
yeah, in
Exactly.
there, in there.
Well, that is great. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for writing
And
me.
of course, anytime. Thank you to the audience. And as always, hold on for a second, Ken. We send you peace. We send you love. We send you blessings. See you next week. Don't forget that code, people. Remember. And all this is going to be in the description. And we love you.
Namaste.
Bye.